Welcome back to Julie's Wreath Boutique. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to do my fused petal technique on a 12-inch wreath frame. Now, a 12-inch wreath frame can be found at your local craft store, and even Walmart sells them. So I did this, I think last year in the fall time, and I showed you how to do it on an 8-inch wreath frame. So we're going to do it on a bigger frame with fall colors, and we're going to use 4 different meshes to kind of show you the depth that you can get with this technique. So I'm excited to show you. Let's get started. Okay, so let's get started with the first step. And your question might be, Julie, what is your fusion technique? My fusion technique is when I take a poly Deco Mesh and I take a poly burlap mesh and I use my wood burner tool to fuse them together. Now, you can do this with 2 pieces of poly. You can do this with 2 pieces of the Deco. You can even use some fabric mesh. Not all fabric mesh will work with this technique, but you're just simply going to take your wood burner, and this is a glass cutting board I have down over my cutting mat. All of these items are available in my Amazon affiliate shop or Amazon store, whatever you want to call it. I always leave that link in the description box below so you can check that out. But you'll find everything under wreath making must-haves. So as you can see, I've already made 1 cut, okay? So if you pull that apart, you can see that they're fused together. Now, for some reason, this Deco mesh is slightly wider than my Burgandy mesh, but that's okay. We're still gonna make that work. So what I want is 10-inch cuts. And because we're gonna be using a 12-inch frame, we are going to need more mesh than normal. So I'm doing 4 different color options here to kind of give it a really pretty fall feel. That's what I want to go for. So now here's the next important thing. I know that looks a little crooked, but that's not going to matter. I'm trying to follow the lines in the poly burlap, not the top layer. The top layer is the Deco mesh. The bottom layer is the poly burlap. And so it is impossible to get these lines, the lines here and the lines in the poly burlap, to be exact. So we're not looking for perfection. Perfection doesn't really exist. And so you're just going to take your time. You're going to find the line that I'm going through here. And sometimes with poly burlap, it's a little curvy. So I'm just following that line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out at least 20 of these petals, probably 25 of this, and then I'm going to cut out using another mesh. Hold on. So here is the second mesh. This one, let me move this over here. You can see I'm using a Burgandy poly Deco mesh, and then I'm using an orange poly burlap. So I'm going over the 2. So this way we're going to have some contrasting colors. And I just thought, you know what, I don't have enough of the Burgandy to do a whole roll or a whole wreath. So I thought, why not just mix it up? And so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to cut it and just go down the 1 line. I'm not worried about that Deco mesh on top. I'm just going to keep cutting it with that poly burlap. Okay, so I'm going to cut out probably 25 pieces of each. I don't know, I might not need quite that much, but I'll have it ready. Okay, so I've got all the mesh cut. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to take a 12-inch wreath frame. When I originally made this tutorial, I used an 8-inch wreath frame. The link for that tutorial will be in the description box below. But the first step we're going to do is for a 12-inch wreath frame, we are going to cut, this is Plastis Canvas Mesh. You will find this at your local craft store. This will be like where the yarn and the embroidery section is. This is the 5-count mesh. You can use the 7-count, it's really up to you. This just has a little bit bigger squares. So I'm just going to take the inner circle and I'm just going to draw around on the outside here. I'm going to cut this out and then I'm going to attach it with little zip ties. So now that we have our frame ready, these frames can be found like at Hobby Lobby, Joann's, Michael's, your local craft store should have the 12-inch, and even Walmart carries these. I do get my mesh online from the Wreath Shop and Trendy Tree, so I would highly recommend both of those companies. You get a little bit better quality than what you might be able to find at the local craft store. All my links are in the description box below. So let's get started. In the first wreath that I showed you how to use this technique, we did 3 petals per section. Now, if you want to do it similar way that I did it in the 8-inch wreath, it's a lot to say there, you can do that. But because we're making such a bigger wreath and you're going to need so much more mesh for this wreath, I'm going to kind of condense it a little bit. So what we're going to do is at the brackets over here, 6 different brackets, we're going to put our first set of petals, okay? And so what you're going to do is we're going to work on that second bar. So you have bar 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so what I want to do is I'm going to take my burgundy and my orange, and I'm going to just take my zip tie and I'm going to put it right in the middle there. See, I'm going to take my petal, so that's the burgundy that's showing. I'm going to meet in the middle. I'm going to gather it to form my petal, and then I'm going to switch it over. Once I switch it over, because we have 2 pieces of mesh here, it is a little bit thicker than normal, I'm going to gently bring them together, and I'm going to bring this piece over the right one. So the left petal will go over slightly the right one. And then I'm going to just take it on my frame, and I'm going to attach it. So what I'll do is I'm going to put this color on all of these brackets around, and I'll be right back. As you can see, I put them all on the brackets, so it's looking a little sparse, but we're going to fix that real quick here. So the next one we're going to put on that second bar. Now, if you were doing all the same colors, you could just do 1 on the bracket, 1 in the middle, 1 on the bracket, 1 in the middle, and so forth. But because I'm alternating colors, it's just easier for me to do it this way. So what I want to do is I'm just going to place my zip tie right here. It doesn't mean that it won't slip. It's okay. I'm going to take now the piece that has the burgundy Deco Mesh and then the orange Poly Burlap mesh in the middle or on the bottom. I'm going to form my petal. I'm going to switch it over. And then I'm going to lay it right here. So I'm going to just keep repeating the same step over and over in between each of my outer rim of petals, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have all 12 of our petals on the wreath frame. Okay, so these are our fused petals that we did originally, I did last year, I believe, and showed you guys this method. So now we're doing kind of a fall theme wreath here, and I just trying to use what I have, and that's why we're doing the different colors, and I think it's going to be really pretty. So now where do we go? So we did the wire 2, so now we're going to bump up to wire 3. So you've got 1, 2, 3, okay? Bar 3, wire 3, whatever you want to call it. So what I want you to do is decide if you're going to do different colors. This is a great way to use mesh that you've been wanting to use too. I'm going to pick this burgundy and orange, burgundy on top, and I'm going to put it, we're going to put it in between each of these petals, okay? So I already have some of these made up because I wanted to see what they look like before I started the video. So I'm just going to lay it in between the 2 here. All right, so that's where that's going to lay. So because we're going in between, everything lays nice, and you're not going to see any unwanted zip ties from the side. So because I used the burgundy, now I'm going to use the one with the orange top. So again, we're just going to put our zip tie there, and I'm going to lay it on top. The same petal technique we just did, nothing has changed. I'm just doing, and of course I can't get the zip tie. Julie, come on. So what I'm going to do different here is I'm going to take this petal, and I'm going to gently take it and lay it over that. So that's what we're going to do all the way around here. So that's what's going to be a little different from the first row that I didn't do that. So I did burgundy, we did the orange gold, and now we're going to do another burgundy. So I'm not even going to worry about that bracket bar. We're not going to use that. So I'm going to take another one, and I'm just going to lay it here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to keep doing this same pattern every other one. And then I'm going to take the left petal and take the right petal of the last set and just lay it over so that it'll lay nice. So I'm just going to keep doing this all the way around and I'll be right back. Okay, so we have the second layer. This is beginning to look really pretty. I'm really liking the way this looks. And this is going to be a larger wreath. I'm debating whether or not to put some green leaves. I'll probably put some green leaves on it because that's just me. So what do we do next? We're going to put the third row of petals. We're going to do 4 rows of petal for a 12-inch frame because we're using a smaller center. So what I did was I put my first zip tie about 1 inch into the frame, as you can see there. So what I did is we're going to try to keep going in between each of the second row's petals. So since there's an orange one here, I'm just going to take, I went ahead and just pre-made them to kind of show you what I wanted to do here. I'm just going to lay my, you don't have to do this, you can just fold them and put them in as you go, but for time's sake and just to show you, I just kind of like to be a little bit quicker. So we're just going to do this. So you put one of the burgundy topped ones. So now I'm just going to go over, I'm going to put my zip tie in the grid or the mesh. So now I want to use one of my goldish orange colored petals. So we're going to do 12 more petals in here. So it's going to start getting tight, okay? And that's the way we want it. We want everything to just kind of come in. And so as you can see, I just put that petal over that petal like I showed you before. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to go all the way around, and then we're going to put a few in the very center of this wreath, and then I'm going to show you what we're going to do for our center. Okay, so I think this is turning out really pretty. I'm really loving the colors on this wreath. I think this is the perfect fall colors, and I like the versions of all the different burgundies and red, or burgundies and orange, I should say. So now we're going to do a few of them in the center. Now, let's just kind of overview what we've just did. We did 12 petals on the outside, 12 petals in the middle, and we did 12 petals on the inside, okay? So now we're going to do, so that's a total of 36 double petals, okay? Remember, we have 4 different rolls of poly burlap and Deco Poly Mesh, or Deco Mesh, whatever you want to call it. So all I'm going to do is we need to just cover these parts because my middle is not going to be big enough. Now, if you want to make a bigger middle, a bigger center, then go right ahead. When you see what I use, you can make your own center bigger and you could just leave it at this. But since my center is smaller, we're gonna go and put another set of petals. So I just went and added a zip tie about 1/2 inch in. I'm just gonna start with a random petal. I think we're just gonna do this burgundy with the orange on the inside. So I'm gonna make my petal. Again, if you're looking for mesh, I really do like the Wreath Shop and Trendy Tree. So I really do recommend those places. All right, so we're putting one. So let's see, let's put another one in. Because it does get tight. We don't want to make it too tight, but it does get tight. So now I want, that's burgundy, I want to grab one of these that have the orange on the front of it, so you can see. All right, we're going to add another one here. So I want to make sure that I end the right way, like alternating them. So I need to make sure that I can put at least 6 of these in here, which I think might be just enough. We might have to do 8. We'll see. So I'm just going to keep doing this and going around, and I'll be right back and we'll see how many I used. Okay, so let's talk about how many petals you're going to need for a 12-inch wreath form. You're going to need 42 fused petals for a 12-inch wreath form, okay? So basically, if you wanted to do 2 different colors, you're going to need 21 of the color combination you want, and then 21 of the other color combination, or just do 42 of the same colors. I just wanted to do this because I didn't have enough mesh to do 42, or I didn't think I did. So I went with this, and I'm really happy how it turned out. I did put 6 in the center. It gets a little tight at the end, so just know it's a struggle at the end, and that's okay. If it's a struggle for me, it's not that big of a deal. It can be done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a few leaves to the back of this wreath. So I'm just going to lay it like that. Okay, see how nice that looks in the back. So what I did was I took some green Deco Poly Mesh, and I took some olive green Poly Burlap. So as you can see, we did our fuse technique, and I wanted to keep that in kind of going with what we're going on here. So you don't have to, you could just use one or the other if you wanted to, but you know, that's just me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these right to the left of the bar brackets. Okay, so let me show you where I'm going to put my zip tie. So it's just to the left here, okay? That's where we're gonna put our first leaf. We're gonna need 6 of these. So I'm gonna just do this the same way as we did these petals. I'm not gonna do anything different. These are cut at 10 inches, guys, 10 inches, the same cut. So I'm gonna just place it, and I'm gonna make sure that this pinched part here goes on that outside of your frame so that you'll see more of the leaf. Now, I don't want an overabundance of the green to show. I just want a little tip of the leaf to show, and that's all I'm going for. If you want to do something more, then you could cut these 11 or 12 inches. It's really up to you and what you like. So there we go. I'm going to do the same thing at each bracket for this wreath. Alrighty, I'm getting really excited about this wreath. It's so pretty in person, and I think it's coming across pretty good on the camera. I'm just gonna keep the center simple. And the reason why I want to keep the center simple, because I was gonna do a whole blinged out thing for this wreath, and I thought, you know what? I really want the colors to be the star of this flower. So what I'm gonna do is, I showed you all a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I'm not sure, how to make your own wreath centers. And I believe that I sprayed painted one with yellow spray paint, but this one is sprayed with brown. So I'm going to link that video in the description box below. So just click on that box down there and you will see the link for this video. I will put the wreath center tutorial. Okay, so I've already made this. Go watch that video. It's not very long if you want to use the center. So all we're going to do is we're just going to take our wire. If you've been following me for a while, you know the drill here. If you're new to my channel, this is pretty much my typical how I put a wreath center on in my wreath. So I'm just going to pull that down ever so gently. You don't want to force anything, and you want to make sure that your mesh is all laying really nicely. So I'm going to flip this over. I like where it's at, so I'm just going to now twist it. Now, what do you do for the back of the wreath, Julie? Well, I'm going to cut a piece of felt, and then I'm just going to zip tie it to certain places so that we can still hang this wreath from the frame itself. I don't make another hook for the frame. We use the frame, okay? Because that's the strongest part of the wreath. So I'm just gonna clip these a little bit. So when I flip this back over, I'm just gonna gently kind of go through here and separate some petals and see if anything got flattened. I want to kind of, you know, just kind of separate ever so gently. Now you can spray, not pray, you should pray, but spray your wreath with Rust-Oleum Clear Matte Acrylic Spray. That will help with the fading. It won't prevent it depending on where you hang your wreath, but it will help. So if you've made it this far, number one, thank you so much. If you haven't followed me on social media, come say hi on Facebook and Instagram. If you like what you see here, make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so that you'll know when I make a new wreath. If you're interested in this wreath, I'm not going to put this one on Etsy, but if you contact me on my Facebook page, if it's still available, I can make a listing for you on my website. And make sure you join us in Wreath Creators and More. It's my Facebook group with a friend of mine, A Noble Touch. And we would love to have you come and craft with us and show us your creations. I hope to inspire you. If you made it this far, leave me something that has to do with fall in the comments to let me know you watched the whole video. That really helps me and encourages me. So until next time in Julie's Wreath Boutique, have a wonderful day and just create something beautiful. I don't know what to say. That's my little blooper at the end. So we'll see you next time.